Young people tend to think, because of what they see on social media, that strangling is normal and that everyone else is doing it. So they think they should do it too, if they do not want to appear old-fashioned and boring and only do vanilla sex. I could not disagree more. I'm speaking with more than 50 years of ongoing experience with a very satisfying sex life. Welcome back to Gyno Info. Or if this is your first time, just welcome. I'm so glad you discovered us. In this podcast, we discuss common gynecological problems in a frank and open way that normal, everyday women can understand without a medical dictionary. But today, I'm going to talk about something that truly horrifies me the more I find out about it. Women experiencing lifelong brain damage after being choked. And let's be clear and call it what it really is, being strangled by their partners during sex. Choking is when something gets stuck in your throat and you have to cough it up. You can choke on a man's cum during oral sex, but this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about outright strangling during sex. Some women even die from it. Whether it was an accident or on purpose is then always the question. It certainly has been used as a defense in multiple murder trials as, quote, rough sex gone wrong. Over the last few years, I have been reading more and more in more news media and also in medical science articles about choking, strangling, sometimes also called EA, erotic asphyxiation, or auto-EA, autoerotic asphyxiation, if you do it yourself. And some people refer to it as the harmless sounding breath play. And frankly, as a doctor dedicated to women's health all my life, it just freaks me out. And if you're over 25 or 30, you may not even have a clue of what I'm talking about. Sexual choking is something that has become fashionable only over the last few years, and mostly in teenagers and young adults. It is being pushed heavily on social media, with gruesome videos desperately looking for likes and clicks, no matter what the health risks and costs are to the producers of these clips, or probably their victims. Seeing it everywhere, they look and click makes young people begin to think that strangling someone when you're making love is normal and any other type of sex is boring. In a recent poll of about 5,000 undergraduates in a Midwestern university, almost 1 in 2 people reported that they had ever been Almost 1 in 2 people reported that they had ever choked someone else during sex. And also 1 in 2 people said that they had been choked by somebody during sex themselves. But for men and women, these numbers are reversed. Almost 2/3 of men, but only 1/4 of women have ever choked someone else. About 2/3 of women, but only slightly more than 1/4 of men have been choked by their sexual partners. And when it comes to choking sex partners often, the men are clearly the ones doing it more. 1 in 3 men and only 1 in 12 women have choked a sexual partner more than 5 times. This difference in how often men and women are choking their partners, 4 times fewer women than men have ever choked someone else more than 4 times, is very interesting. About why that is, different sex researchers have different theories about. The study I'm talking about has some other statistics about more traditional sexual practices, but also about face slapping and hard spanking, anal sex without permission, and repeatedly sticking a penis down someone's throat without consent, called face fucking. All these things can both injure you and also traumatize you if you didn't request it, but they do not cause permanent brain damage or kill you. Before I get into the deadly dangers of sexual choking, let's first talk about exactly what it is. Sexual strangling during sex means you are cutting off the blood flow and with that the oxygen to the brain by pushing on the veins and the arteries in your partner's neck here. Depending on the amount of force used, the windpipe is also closed off and the lungs don't get any air anymore. The lungs are where the blood picks up the oxygen to then bring to the rest of the body, including the brain. Stopping the blood flow to the brain can be done by placing one or two hands around the partner's neck, placing an arm or foot or a leg across their neck, or tying the blood supply to the brain off with a string or a belt or a scarf or a tie or something else. Of these three, using the hands is the least dangerous because the amount of force can be better controlled. But mind you, blocking the jugular vein takes less force than opening a can of soda. It doesn't take much at all to cut off blood supply and oxygen to the brain. You can also cut off oxygen to the brain by cutting off the air to the lungs, by blocking the mouth and the nose with a plastic bag or a hood or a pillow or some other barrier. When the blood can no longer pick up oxygen in the lungs, the whole body doesn't get oxygen anymore. The brain is just the organ that reacts first, but soon after that comes the heart and other organs that are particularly sensitive to not getting enough oxygen. Sexual strangling is now the second most common cause of stroke in women under 40. And to be crystal clear, no air in the lung, then no oxygen to the brain, nor the heart, nor anywhere else in your body. When cells get no oxygen, be that the brain or anywhere else, they get injured and then they are damaged and then they die. When too many cells get killed in one organ, such as the brain or the heart, then that organ dies too, and then you die. It is that simple. And there's really no safe way of playing at sexual strangling, no matter what your influencers try to tell you. I would bet a lot of money that the people posting these videos all have some brain damage, some more, some less. They are paying a super high price for their clicks, or their victims do. With no more oxygen reaching the brain, you can lose consciousness in as few as 7 to 10 seconds. After about 15 to 30 seconds, you might lose bladder control. And soon after that, you can lose control of your bowels. Doesn't sound very attractive to me. After about a minute, you can have a heart attack, a stroke, or a permanent damage to your brain, or you can die. Sexual strangling is truly very risky and may lead to serious injury or death, or at least permanent damage, whether you do it yourself or let someone else do it to you. Doing it yourself may be even more deadly because you might not be able to help yourself and loosen whatever tie you use to strangle yourself in time to save yourself. Up to 1,000 people a year are reported to have died from self-inflicted sexual strangling in the US. Many more probably go unreported because their relatives or friends cover it up when they find them dead in what is for them obviously a very embarrassing circumstance. Even short or only partial loss of oxygen to the brain causes brain damage. This can actually be shown by measuring certain substances in the blood that are tested after people have had a stroke. We measure that to see how badly the brain was damaged. So these markers of brain tissue death have also been found to be high in young people who are doing sexual choking, sexual strangling, as I prefer to say, as I tend to call things exactly what they are. The type of brain damage that occurs and how severe it is depends on how often and how badly you are being strangled. And even if you ask to be strangled by your partner because you thought it might be exciting or fun, it can leave you with major problems, some short-lived and some permanent. You can have some confusion, memory issues, difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions, emotional problems, and depression, even severe cognitive impairment. That's a nicer way of saying dementia. In severe cases, you can have seizures, be paralyzed, problems talking, and have lasting incontinence issue that you can't hold your urine or your stool. Your bowel and your bladder do not function properly anymore, and that permanently. You could have a cardiac arrest and die, and have a heart attack but live with a damaged heart. If you're pregnant, you can miscarry, or the baby's brain can be damaged. You can have injuries to your voice box and vocal cords, make it difficult to swallow and to speak. Or you can get neck swelling that makes it necessary for you to be intubated because you can't breathe anymore. Some of the symptoms, like the life-threatening swelling in your throat or blood clots from damage to the arteries in your neck, but also mental issues, may not show up right away, but days and even weeks later. If the whole thing was not your idea of fun and you never consented and agreed to it, or if everything simply got out of hand, or if your partner was simply clueless about what he or she was doing and didn't stop in time, you may, of course, have to deal with severe PTSD and trust issues for a long time, on top of everything else, if you even survived. There are also the legal issues that you might want to consider. Strangulation is now a felony offense in all 50 US states and many other countries. Consent, having agreed to it, may not be a legal defense if harm occurs, if you accidentally kill or maim someone for life. Rough sex gone wrong no longer counts as a defense, and you may end up in the dock for murder, because people cannot legally consent to acts that cause serious injury or death. And if anyone was drunk or even on drugs, he or she cannot legally consent to having sex, let alone being strangled during sex. Given these obvious downsides of sexual strangling, why on earth would anyone want to choke someone or be choked during sex? For one, young people have no clue that doing it is playing Russian roulette with their brain. They simply do not know how truly dangerous it is. The great majority, 76 out of 100 of the women and 86 out of the men among the college students in the study I mentioned earlier, were not forced. They had either asked their partner to do it, or their partner had requested it, thinking it would be interesting, kinky, an exciting adventure, and fun to try. But less than half of them actually found it very pleasurable, and not all of them had been asked every time before being strangled during sex. Overall, about 1 in 5 of the people who had been choked during sex had never been asked if they really wanted it. Some even described that they were strangled the very first time they had sex. Can you imagine how horrible it would be losing your virginity like that? Another reason for wanting to be strangled during sex is that immediately after strangling or suffocating, you feel dizzy and have a head rush. This is caused by the substances that the brain had released trying to defend itself, called neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and endorphin. The body then confuses these brain defense chemicals with pleasure, when it's not that at all. Other people like the power play involved. They enjoy to be either dominant or submissive during sex. But this type of play does not require almost killing someone to be enjoyable. Another important reason, probably is the most important reason I have already mentioned. Young people tend to think, because of what they see on social media, that strangling is normal and that everyone else is doing it. So they think they should do it too, if they do not want to appear old-fashioned and boring and only do vanilla sex. I could not disagree more. I'm speaking with more than 50 years of ongoing experience with a very satisfying sex life. There are many much more interesting and fun things to do than almost dying during sex, I can assure you. But that takes creativity and imagination, something that sexual strangling might have destroyed in your brain already. Creativity and imagination are located in a part of the brain that is affected early by not getting enough oxygen. With this less than cheerful thought, I come to the end of this episode. I hope you will heed my warning and take care of your brain cells in the future. To do well in the tough times ahead for the world, you will need every shred of imagination and creativity you can muster, not just for making love. I will let this be my life tip for the day. And one last tip. Here's a useful website where you find information on emergency measures to be taken if someone strangles you, what you can care for at home, and when you need to visit an emergency room. This one is from Canada, but there are similar sites from all over the world. Unfortunately, they're necessary. Don't be embarrassed to act. Your health, certainly your brain, and even your life may depend on it. You will find the link to this super important website from Alberta, Canada, in the description below, or I will also put it in the show notes for you to link to. I hope you found all this information useful and will tune in next week again to Gyno Info and tell all your friends about it. I promise next week will not be as gruesome as this episode. And remember, you can send in any questions you might have or suggestions for future episode topics to questions@gynoinfo.net. Thanks for listening and see you next time. Goodbye. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember that you and your health are super important and deserve your full attention. Don't ever put off contacting your doctor because you're scared or embarrassed when something feels wrong about your body. Doctors are here to help you and not to judge you. And also, regular well-woman visits are always a good idea that you should make time for. You deserve it, and you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your body and your health. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by me, Dr. Burki, produced and edited by Josh Rosenzweig. Original music composed by Nell Balaban. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and a review. It really helps others discover the show. Stay connected and join the conversation by following me on Instagram and Facebook @GynoInfo and on LinkedIn @GynoInfo Podcast. Remember, any questions that I answer or information that I give you on this podcast are to be understood as information only, not treatment of your medical problems. While I'm a very knowledgeable gynecologist, I'm not your gynecologist who has talked to you and examined you personally and is therefore actually able to treat you. So please consult your own healthcare professional with any medical questions or concerns.